You're listening to
Sound.
Insightful.
Bible teaching.
For a meaningful
Christian walk.
Last week, where did we leave off? Babel. Is that good? It's about as bad as you can get. The thing is, it's interesting. We have the perspective of the Holy Word. And we can see with the proper interpretation that this was not a good situation. Just considering, actually a lot of people these days would celebrate that situation. It's like, wow, we've got all this diversity. And one thing that we didn't share that much, Babel was full of idolatry. And it's like, oh wow, this is so good. Everyone worships the way they want to, and isn't that wonderful? Well, no, it's not. There's one God. We've seen this. There's one way of worship. This is not a popular thing to say today. I mean, Jesus said, I am the way. You know, I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. What we'd like to believe is everything's equal. You know, you worship your way, you worship your way, you worship whatever you want to call God or gods or goddess. It's all good, right? But it's not. So we've got mankind at that time. If I would have been surveying the situation, I would have said no. But God had already made a promise to Noah that he would not flood the earth again. If I'd have been God, I would have been looking over that document. It's like, is there any way out of this? I think we need to wipe them all out again. Let's start from scratch. He couldn't do that. So what's he do? I'm not God. It's a good thing I'm not God, because we all wouldn't be here today. But God, he knows what he's doing. So tonight we're going to start talking about Abraham. And there's 4 people that are key to this. Abraham, Isaac, not that Isaac, Jacob, we don't have a Jacob here, do we? Then one of Jacob's sons, Joseph. These 4 together make up the experience of a proper Christian. The things they went through and the stages they attained to should be a shadow or a prefigure of our Christian life. So the things that Abraham experienced, maybe not exactly the same things, but we should experience the same things in principle. So for instance, Abraham was called. We'll get into that tonight. We all should have God's calling. We don't need to get too deep and too, have I had God's calling or this or that? But looking at, maybe the negative side, if there's someone who's never had the Lord's appearing, I'm not talking about physical appearing, the Lord's speaking, it's just like, how can they be a believer? People can be professing Christians, like I'm a Christian. That doesn't mean much, because if you talk to a lot of these people, and I'm not judging them, because I'm not the judge, so I can't judge. But if someone says to you, "I'm a Christian," we've met a lot of people there. I'm a Christian. They say, "Oh, how is it that you're a Christian? What did you do to become a Christian?" And the most extreme one was, "I'm an American. Therefore, I'm a Christian." Because America's a Christian country. And it's like, he could have been a Christian. But based on that statement alone, it's like, no. Other people would say, well, my grandfather was a Baptist minister, so I must be a Christian. Well, it's really good your grandfather was a Baptist minister. But how about you? Being Christian is not something that's inherited. You don't get it. It's wonderful if your parents and grandparents are Christians. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's great if you can be raised in a Christian home, to be led to the Lord in the proper way. That's all really good. But it's not automatic. Now, Abraham, we'll read some verses in a minute. Actually, we always call him Abraham. At that time, his name was not Abraham. It was Abram. It means something a little different. But anyway, I'll call him Abraham, so don't say, wait, he's Abram. It's just a lot easier to say Abraham. And it's easier to say Abraham and Sarah, his wife, even though at that time her name was not Sarah, it was Sarai. So don't be confused. I'm explaining right now. I'm going to call him Abraham, and I'm going to call her Sarah, even though they don't get their names changed until much later. So Abraham, God appeared to him. He was living in Ur of the Chaldees. We just sang the song about get out of Chaldea. Do you know what the word Chaldea means? It's very significant. It means demonic. Yeah. This is Mesopotamia. You might have learned about that in your ancient history books, the Fertile Crescent and all that kind of stuff. This means demonic. So he was living in a place probably full of idolatry, and he grew up that way. I know he might have been worshiping the local idols. Parents might have worshipped the local idols, whatever they did. But this was a land that was demonic. Even the name is demonic. Maybe they thought that was okay. The demons are cool or something. But I don't have these verses on here. But if you read Acts chapter 7, this is the account. If you ever want a good history of the entire Bible, of God's chosen race, read Stephen's account in Acts chapter 7, just before he was martyred. But there he makes things a little bit clearer. He says, starting at verse 2, he's talking to these people. He says, men, brothers, and fathers, listen. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham while he was in Mesopotamia before he dwelt in Haran, and said to him, come out from your land and from your relatives and come into the land which I will show you. In Genesis chapter 12, it's got kind of the same. Jehovah said to Abram, go from your land and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. Stephen's account in Acts actually is before this. So he was living there with his father, and he had a brother named Terah who died, and his father's name was Terah. Yeah, his brother's name was actually Haran. And they left that land, but they didn't go all the way. They went to a place called Haran. Maybe it was named after his brother, and they stopped there. So then Genesis 12 comes in at that point. They're dwelling in Haran. And Jehovah said, you can get this from chapter 11. I'm not making this up. Jehovah says to Abraham, come in, leave your land, leave your relatives, leave your father's house. And you'll go to a land that I will show you. He didn't say go. He said just go. If I said, do you want to go on a trip? Okay, get your stuff. We're going to go. Where are we going? I'll tell you when we get there. Is it a long trip? You'll find out. Is it going to be hard? We'll see. But this requires some kind of attraction. Because Abraham, I don't know if you've ever thought much about him. A lot of times we think of the people in the Bible as kind of superhuman. Like, Abraham must have been, we call him the father of faith. So he's just like this person full of faith. He can believe. It took God's actual appearing twice to get him to leave Chaldea. One time, his father went with him, and they went to Haran. Then his father died. God appears to him again and says, now, would you please proceed to cross the river to enter into the land that I'm going to show you. Abraham, he had God's appearing. He had God's calling, like God speaking. I guess, if God appeared to you, Daniel, you say you can't see God and live, but anyway, imagine you saw something. What would you do?
Probably be scared.
Be scared, yeah. What would you do?
I'd probably be trembling in fear.
Yeah, everyone's scared. Will, what would you do?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like God just appeared. Yeah, we'd be scared. Then he disappears. And it'd be like, okay, oh, that was something. What am I supposed to do? This must be some kind of sign, right? But what am I supposed to do? God didn't just appear. He said something to him. He told him to do something. And it has to be the same with us. Now, I'm going to tell you, I have never seen God appearing in the heavens. There's a famous televangelist. I won't give his name. You might not even recognize the name anyway, but he wanted more money, basically. And he said that a 900-foot tall Jesus appeared to him and told him to ask your people for more money, otherwise you're going to die and I'm going to take you away.
No way.
Yeah, that's right, no way. Anyway, that's what he said. I think they got the money. He had a university and he was going to build some stuff. It wasn't just so he could get rich. But I just kind of find that hard to believe. Why would Jesus need to be 900 feet tall? I mean, it would already be really impressive just to see Jesus, period. I mean, a little Jewish man. But anyway, God appeared to him and he called him. And what did he say? Go from your land, that's where he's dwelling, and from your relatives, and from your father's house. In other words, it's like, I don't want all these other people. You just come. And this time he came. And then he says, I will make you a great nation. I'll bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. So he will be blessed, and he will be a blessing to others. Now, in the New Testament, the blessing of Abraham were very clear as the Spirit. So to receive the blessing of Abraham is to receive the Spirit. So it wasn't just, I will bless you. And, honestly, this word blessing, most of the time we use it incorrectly, or at least with the wrong emphasis. We make it very physical. Like, God bless me, give me something. Or, bless me by doing something for me. Actually, the biggest blessing is God himself. And Paul was in prison, suffering. God did not bless him to be released from his suffering, but God gave him the Spirit. The bountiful supply of the Spirit of Jesus Christ. This is the real blessing. So Abraham would not only receive a blessing, but he would become a blessing to others. And of course we know that eventually Abraham's descendants, without Abraham there's no Christ. So this is a big part of the promise. There's all kinds of people around at that time. How many people were living there? You know, right?
I don't know.
100, 1,000, million, billion, I don't know. A lot. Why did God choose Abraham?
Good question.
Even though he didn't choose Abraham, he chose Abram. But anyway. You know why?
Because he wanted to.
Oh, he said because he wanted to. That's really good. Aaron, why did God choose you?
I don't know.
Because you're tall? There's people taller than you who I don't think are believers. Some are. Zach, why would God choose you?
That's a good question.
I know that in my experience, I was raised Christian, and so I kind of had an objective belief in God. I went through confirmation, all that kind of stuff. But God was never real to me. And so eventually I was not just doubting my salvation, I didn't know what salvation was. And so I began to consider, and in a lukewarm way began to seek God. But then, some things happened. Through some friends who were genuine believers, I got linked up with a club when I was in grad school. And one night, early in the year, brothers shared about God's eternal purpose, God's economy, and I can say I had God's appearing. You know, you may never see God in the flesh while you're alive. Don't worry about it. But have you ever seen Natasha? Stephen, have you ever seen Peter?
I live at his house.
Yeah. Golly, have you ever seen Zoe? This is, these are ones who are believers. They have the Lord's life in them. And we can speak. And we can minister life. And it's just like when I'm with Zach, it's just like, who are you? You're just like, you look like an ordinary guy. But, very ordinary. Not extraordinary. Right? But just something about you that's different than all the other ordinary guys. And when you speak to him about God, about Jesus, it's different than anything I've ever heard before. Because he's got the life of Christ in him, and it's coming out. And so when he says to me, you never said this to me, but you could have. If he says, you need to receive the Lord, you need to believe in Jesus, it's just like, yeah. When Jesus was on the earth, he went to these young fishermen, he says, hey, drop everything and follow me. And they did. He didn't do a great miracle in front of their eyes. He didn't compel them. The words were just, follow me. I mean, some guy came to you and said, hey, follow me. You might not follow him too far. But anyway, God appeared and God spoke and God gave him a promise. So to us, every believer, we're living in Chaldea. I mean, this is every country. The U.S. is supposedly kind of Christian country. I forget about that. It's full of darkness, evil. We're living in it. We're exposed to it every day, and we're brought up thinking things that are completely wrong, upside down. Actually, we believe this is normal. This is right. But then one day, someone comes into your life. Maybe one day you look at the Bible, actually read something, and there's some light there. And God appears to you. Once again, I'm not talking about a physical, but inwardly, you just feel like there's something shining. There's something speaking to me. I've been going to a Bible study with these other Christians, and I thought I was a believer. Maybe I'm not. We're not here to cast doubt on people. But anyway, there's something speaking to you, something calling you, and even calling you out. Now, he said, leave your land, right? Would you leave Minnesota? That's a tough call, right? In the winter, yeah. In the summer, right before the Super Bowl. Anyway, your relatives, not just your relatives, your father's house. This is like, your intimate relatives. This is like, are you going to follow the Lord? Well, Abraham did. In Hebrews 11:8, this is If you ever want, we call Hebrews chapter 11, this is the Hall of Fame of faith. And it goes through all these examples of ones who exhibited their faith. But by faith, Abraham, being called, obeyed to go out unto a place which he was to receive as an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith, he dwelt as a foreigner in the land of promise, as in a foreign land, making his home in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the fellow heirs of the same promise. For he eagerly waited for the city which has the foundations, whose architect and builder is God. This city we see in Revelation. This is the holy city, Jerusalem, the new Jerusalem. This is the city we're all waiting for. This was his hope. I don't know how much Abraham knew, or if he just realized there's something more than this. Because when he went into Canaan, which was the promised land, eventually God says, this is the land I'm going to give you. But he goes there to a couple of different places. But at one of them, in Shechem, Jehovah appears to Abram and said, to your seed I will give this land. And there he built an altar to Jehovah who had appeared to him. And he proceeded from there to the mountain on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to Jehovah and called upon the name of Jehovah. So he lived in a tent. Not that many generations before that, people built a big tower, made of bricks with clay, burned, man-made. Actually, clay, someone shared this in the words, it was really good. Clay is what we're made of, right? And so these bricks actually just represent us dead, being built up together in rebellion against God. But he lived in a tent. A tent's not even a permanent dwelling. I mean, if your home is a tent, I kind of feel sorry for you. If you have to live in a tent, you have to live in a tent. It's okay, but you want something permanent. But this just shows he's a sojourner. He's willing to move. He's mobile. That's the ancient mobile home. It's the ancient army. We still have tents now, but they got wheels. Another thing he did, he built an altar to Jehovah. And an altar is where you offer sacrifices for God's pleasure. Actually, the altar typifies us offering ourselves, to consecrate ourselves, to give ourselves to God. So Abram, he went through this whole process. He was called, the Lord spoke to him, the Lord promised to him, and he went. He didn't go quickly, though. I mean, he just kind of dragged his feet. And we'll see, I don't know if we get into all the things, he still was not perfected. You might think, okay, he's made it by now. No, he has a lot of big failures coming ahead. And even by the end of his life, you could really say he's not matured yet in the spiritual sense. I'm not talking about humanly. I think he lived to be 180 or something. Not 900. People's age had gone down. But he was there, and he realized, here I am. I'm living in a tent. I'm not living in a tower made of bricks. And I'm just going to be here, giving myself to God. So I'm going to build an altar. It's the exact same with us today. I don't know how to say this in a way that's not scary. But Abraham kind of left everything. The only thing he did is he brought Lot along. Lot was his brother's son. This time Abraham's 75 years old. That was, even back then, that was old. His wife's about the same age. So it's like their chances of having children pretty slim. I think she was about 65 or so, maybe a little older than that. We'll find out later about the birth of Isaac. He brought Lot on. Lot was probably younger, probably good to have him on. This did not correspond with what God told him. Leave your relatives, leave your father's house. It's okay, we'll go. And Lot, why don't you come along? And he did. And eventually Lot, we'll talk about him, he's going to have his own message. Eventually Lot became a problem to him, 2 or 3 different ways. But it's also very instructive for us, and it's very useful that Lot came along because we can learn something. So if there's no Lot, then we wouldn't get these good examples of what not to do. But still, Abraham, he was just a guy. He was a guy living in a demonic place, worshiping idols, and for some reason, God had mercy on him. Zach, you're just a guy, right? Living in demonic Ohio. I don't know what Ohio even means. I can say that because every word is demonic, right? Except for 1 or 2 places. But anyway, some are much, much worse. But you're there, you're just a guy. You're just an ordinary guy, go to high school, go to college. And then when you're in college, what happened? You got God's appearing. Right? Didn't you get saved in college? Yeah. Met some brothers, probably heard something. You got God's appearing, you got God's calling. Even to the point where it's like, should I give up what I'm doing? Whether you give up what you're doing or not, it's not up to you, it's up to God. We can offer it on the altar. It's like, Lord, if you want this, I give it to you. And they'll say, that's fine. Thank you. But you can keep it. And Daniel watches that and he says, oh, this is pretty safe. Lord, I want to give you my future. It's like, good, I'm going to take it. Wait, I had plans. No, they just went up in smoke. But take it from me, I had a lot of plans. And I don't know if I had a bright future. Some people say I did. That future actually wasn't that bright. But one day I offered it. And the Lord didn't take it right then. But he did take it. And it was just I was so happy. It's like, wow, look at that thing burn. It's gone. Now, the only hope I have now is a city with foundations. I'm too old to go back to what I was doing. I'm totally obsolete. But anyway, this is Abram's life. So we have the same experience. We need to thank the Lord that one day he didn't leave us alone in our idolatrous. There you go. That's what idolic sounds like idyllic. That's really nice. Idolatrous country practice, and he appeared to us. He called us. He saved us. And Abraham, it says that he believed God, and so it was accounted to him for righteousness. That's in Genesis and in Romans. So one day we believe the gospel, right? Right, David?
Yeah.
Were you born a Christian?
No.
Yeah, you were born again a Christian, right? One day you had to believe, and then God says, now you're justified because you believed in me. Then we're saved. And then we're empowered. God appeared to Abraham a few times. Each time was a strengthening to him. Yeah. Because he was going through something, and then God would appear to him. Or he'd get to a point and he needed more strengthening. Mm-hmm. I mean, actually, when he was called once, twice, then he finally left. God didn't appear to him again until he got where he was supposed to go. And then God appeared to him, and that was a real confirmation. Okay, you're going on the GPS and you're looking for the signs, and where am I? I'm in the right place, and there's a big sign that says, you're on the right path, you're here. This is like God's appearing. That's a big, big strengthening to Abraham, and it's a big, big strengthening to us. We have the witness in our spirit that you're on the right track. Some days you might wonder, some days it might seem God's, 10 million miles away. He's not. But then you get the Lord's fresh appearing, the Lord's fresh speaking. And maybe it comes because David's there. And he just shares something on the Lord's Day, and it's just like, that's what I needed to hear. This is the confirmation that I'm still on the right path. I'm still following the Lord. I don't know where I'm going to end up. You don't know where you're going to end up. Maybe you think you do, you don't. But anyway, you're going to be on the path with God, walking with the Lord, and reach the destination that He desires. So I'm going to stop here.